All right, we are officially open, guys. So we'll start getting people to join us. If you are joining, thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. For engaged parents to increase yield, we are going to be talking with admissions folks from Utah State and Concordia University in just a couple of minutes. We're going to give a couple minutes for everybody to join us and get settled. This is the part of the webinar that's so quiet. It's almost eerie.
Yeah, how about if you're sitting here in silence, right in the chat, say hello, tell us where you're dialing in from. Someone has to be first.
Ah, we have one.
There you go, Reed.
Yay. Woohoo. Got coast to coast going on here. All right, I'm seeing it slow down in terms of participants being added. Good thing is, of course, a couple of slides here that we're going through are some, housekeeping items. So if people are joining in, hopefully they'll be able to catch up. So let's dive right on into things here with the actual housekeeping stuff. Just to let everybody know, all of the participants' lines are on mute. So if you speak out with a great comment or question, we will not hear you. Please use the chat that Brooke directed you to ask any questions. There's also a Q&A feature inside the Zoom chat. You can use that as well. We'll see both of them. We'll be happy to answer questions from either of those. And yes, this is being recorded, and we will be sending out the recording, the slide deck that we are sharing, and the full case study that we're referencing at a later date, probably tomorrow. It's on my list for tomorrow. We'll see if I get it done. If not, it'll be coming out on Friday, but it will be coming your way. All right, and just a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today here. We're going to go through who everybody is that is joining us on this call. We're going to give you a very, very short comment on who Campus ESP is and why we are doing this kind of data research and case study follow-up. And then we're going to go through the actual case study. We're going to show you guys the data that we were able to pull and focus on the three real big takeaways, the trends that we're seeing, which have to do with content engagement, the impact on student EL, and the impact on student enrollment. And then we will, at the very end, of course, make sure we have time to save for a Q&A. We love when people ask questions, both you can ask me or Brooke anything about Campus ESP, but really more importantly, we want you to talk to Leah and Ryan about their real experiences, what they're seeing on their campuses, and see if there's any takeaways that you can bring back to your office later. All right, so here's our little caveat thing, just so you know who we are and why we are hosting a webinar on this topic. I'm going to turn it over really quickly to Brooke, and she's going to give you a quick introduction to who we are, and we promise it will only take about 2 minutes, I swear. Go ahead, Brooke.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see a lot of new names on this call and folks who are not currently using Campus ESP. So quick sense of why we're talking about parents, how they influence student yield. So we know parents are extremely influential in the enrollment process, from scheduling campus visits to helping their students select which school is the best fit. But many schools still send mailers to the parents of, this may sound familiar to some of you on the call, which are not very personalized. It doesn't help institutions collect enrollment data to support ROI. And that's really where Campus ESP comes in. So Campus ESP is an all-in-one parent engagement solution that helps schools drive student enrollment. We have a web, mobile, email platform to engage families, and through Campus ESP, institutions can keep parents engaged with deadlines, campus information, score family interest to determine likelihood to enroll, nudge student behavior about upcoming action items, and really ultimately leverage the data to make enrollment decisions. Campus CSP is working with over 170 colleges, some of you who are on this call, hello, and we have over 3 million families that we serve. And if you'd like to learn more, like we said, we're going to keep this brief. If you'd like to learn more about what we do, just check out our website. We have research, we have case studies, webinars, customer best practices, and success stories and results. And that's really it for the quick word from our sponsors. And back to the rest of the group.
Awesome. All right, so let's let everybody know who was on the call today really quickly too before we dive into that data. Hi, I am Melissa Greiner. I'm our Director of Marketing here at Campus ESP. I'm going to be our moderator for today and walk you guys through the data as well as kind of get some more insights from our panelists that are joining us today. And we also did set this little thing just so you would get to know us a little bit as human beings. We usually at our webinars ask each participant on the call a question. It might be themed to whatever our topic is or the season. So yeah, we definitely went hard on the season angle this time. And our question for all of us is our favorite Thanksgiving side. So I guess I have to kick us off here. And I'm extremely torn because I'm not a huge fan of turkey. So my plate is usually just all the sides. And I love them all, but I have been making for the last couple of years a really good maple braised butternut squash, which has become a definite go-to and probably one of my favorites. All right, Brooke, take it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Sternick. I'm the Director of Product at Campus ESP. I worked on developing our student enrollment module and creating this case study that we'll be talking about today. So I'm really here to explain the results, our methodology, what these numbers can mean for your institution. So if you have any questions, don't be shy in the chat. As for Thanksgiving dish, I've been a vegetarian for most of my life, which means Thanksgiving's really not my holiday, but I really love mashed potatoes, especially when they're smothered in hot sauce.
I don't know if I've ever had them that way, but now I need to try this, I think.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next we have Ryan Jensen from Utah State. Ryan, can you talk a little bit about what you do?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm the marketing manager or director of marketing for the admissions office at Utah State University. We're the land grant institution in Utah, based out of Logan, up north. And my Thanksgiving dish that I always enjoy is the stuffing. I know that some people hate it, but I love that. I'd eat it once a week if I could.
Awesome. All right. And then finally, we have Leah from Concordia University in St. Paul.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me, Melissa and Brooke. Like Melissa said, my name is Leah. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Concordia University in St. Paul. So I work with our traditional admissions counselor team. And my favorite food at Thanksgiving is definitely my grandma's creamed corn casserole that she makes. It's one of my favorites, and yeah, I can't get enough.
All right, now that we're all hungry, let's talk about data. All right, so let's give you a little bit of a framework on the case study we're going to be looking at today. All this came from one case study that we recently did. We really wanted to look into the impact of prospective family communications and engagement on student enrollment. When schools really do focus on connecting with families, how does that move the needle for the enrollment and admissions process? So we focused on the results and efforts of 4 schools, Elmira College, Concordia, University of Alaska Fairbanks, and Utah State. So we wanted to look at the impact at different size schools, different types of schools, different locations across the country. Perhaps not surprisingly, the numbers were different for each institution, but the trends really overall were pretty similar. So let's get into what those big takeaways really were. All right, Brooke's going to take us through each slide and kind of just explain what we're looking at visually from the data, and then we're going to kind of take a pause and discuss what we're seeing in real time.
Yep, thanks, Mel. So this chart shows an analysis of average email open rate for prospective parents. And it's important to note that this is data from all stages of the enrollment funnel, from inquiry to enrolled at the 4 institutions that participated in the case study. And what this is showing us is that the general prospective parent open rate hovers between about 30% to 45%, which is very, very high. And again, since this is an average from across the whole funnel, we do typically see an even higher open rate from parents once a student has been admitted, deposited, enrolled. I also want to clarify with this data that these high open rates are not coming from just a handful of emails here and there. Most of these parents get actually a bi-weekly email from these schools, sometimes even a weekly email. And in fact, on average, each parent receives 24 emails from Campus CSP during the enrollment cycle. So the takeaway here is that parent engagement is high, even with a high level of interaction from students, institutions, and parents are really a more captive audience to reach when it comes to things like deadlines, campus news, and other important enrollment nudges.
Yeah, and to back up what Brooke just said, I think some people see, 24 emails sent per year. That's probably, maybe that's too much. But we're seeing these high open rates with this high pace because we're seeing also that that's what families want. We've done other surveys before over the years with other partners, and we're seeing that parents are actually asking for outreach up to weekly, depending on the school and where their student is in the process. And they want it via email. So parents are asking for this. They're desiring it. They're really engaging with it. So Ryan, why don't we start with you? We're seeing all these trends here. Are you seeing on Utah State's campus really that parent engagement is something that's continuing to grow as a trend and that parents are actually really excited about the prospect of the school interacting with them?
Yeah, when you guys helped us pull out this data, we were pleasantly surprised, but it matched up with what we're even seeing in person. I always tell people that, a lot of our recruiters or admission specialists, the people that deal in person with parents, we have to remind ourselves to talk to the student because the parents are very interested. They're attending the campus tour with their student. They're helping the student apply. They're coming to the events. They're coming to the open houses with them. And so we just see a lot of engagement in person. And so it didn't surprise us to see all this engagement virtually by email and through Campus ESP. And we believe what's helped us a lot is, in adopting Campus ESP and making that our main platform to communicate with parents, we really prime the parents at all stages, whether they're parents of admitted students or just parents of students that are interested in attending USU and have not applied yet, our prospects. We really mention Campus ESP and prime them by mentioning it on campus tours, any of our events. We put handouts in the campus tour folders. We mention it in our presentations, just so people aren't blindsided by it when we automatically enroll them or they start getting emails from it, but we try and make sure they're aware of it beforehand.
And Leah, I know you mentioned to us before that this is also something that you're seeing on your campus and that it's kind of even influenced how Concordia is thinking of parents as a partner.
Yeah, definitely. When I came into this position a few years ago, I think our kind of outlook of parents were, like the students were working with our adults, like they need to be making these decisions and doing things on their own. And we really realized that no, like we know how important that the parents are in going to college has really become a family decision. And they're really influential in the process. And we've really changed our tune and treated them as allies and want to incorporate them as much as possible, knowing how important they are and to help kind of nudge their student through their enrollment cycle. And I think that's what I love the most about working with Campus ESP is we really didn't have anything built to be able to do that ourselves. And they are just so helpful in helping us create the content and connect with the parents. So yes, definitely have seen an increase over the years with our parent engagement.
That's great to hear. And I know we see this stat, across the board when we share it, that people's first instinct is, ooh, I need to take advantage of this. This is something I need to get behind. But then there's almost sometimes a slight hesitation because there's the concern that maybe a school doesn't have the contact information for parents to really start doing this kind of proactive outreach. So can you guys share where you do gather parent contact information so that you can engage them as early in that enrollment funnel as possible? Leah, do you want to just continue since you've been chatting?
Sure. Yeah, and we've really built that out, I think, especially this past year. It's always been on our application. So students can give us their parent or guardian information at that time. We have a dedicated form on our website on popular sites that parents or students may be going to, so a form that they can fill out. We also have like QR codes throughout our campus that parents can pull up on their phone and fill out a quick form to be added into our database. And then the parent recruiter tool, which I know you'll be talking about. Yeah, those are some of our key spots that we pull that information.
Ryan, are there any other places that Utah State is able to gather this information?
Yeah, ours is also on the application, and they have to opt in to being communicated with. We don't enroll as parents unless they opt in and check that box for us. But I think the big thing is those flyers we use in our campus tour folders. We call that out during the campus tour in any of the presentations we give, where they can sign up right then and there. And then USU also uses this for parents of current students. And so we coordinate with the orientation office and they promote it as much as they can, but we use one website to send everyone to sign up that way.
Yeah, these are all great venues to get this information. But we know that the earlier that a school has this information, the more influential that parent can be in the entire funnel process. So Brooke, I know we were hearing this from a number of our clients and recently developed another tool, which Leah just mentioned, which is Parent Recruiter, that helps with this. Do you want to give a quick plug to what Parent Recruiter helps do?
Yes, absolutely. And shout out to Leah and CSP for actually being the second institution to implement this ever. But Parent Recruiter is a way to gather prospective parent contact information at the top of the funnel from students. So, most institutions put a lot of time and energy and resources into buying student contact information or generating student contact information, but we typically don't get the parent contact information until the student applies. That's where most schools collect it on the application. So Parent Recruiter lets schools email students and encourage students to invite their parents to join Campus ESP, and just matching up the top of the funnel student data that schools already have with the top of the funnel parent data that schools are trying to get a hold of.
Yeah, we're excited to see how much that really does help some of our first schools that are implementing that right now. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, maybe we'll have some interesting data from that angle to take a look at.
Absolutely.
All right. So this is a kind of a double click down into what we were just talking about, mainly focusing on Utah State. So Brooke, you want to take it here?
Yep. So one trend we've seen across the board, really with all of our partner institutions, is that prospective parents are even more engaged than prospective students, especially at the top of the funnel, actually. So we dug a level deeper with Ryan and Utah State's data, and we found that when we compare prospective parent open rates with prospective student open rates, prospective parent open rates are about 10% higher, which is probably not that surprising to anyone on this call, but really supports what we've just been talking about with how parents are in a position to become influencers for your school during the enrollment process.
Yeah, Ryan, do you want to share a little bit about why you think this is such a true fact, particularly on your campus?
Yeah, so like Brooke mentioned, it's really high at the top of the funnel, and for USU at least, how we get our parents in there, it's because the top of the funnel are parents that signed up themselves. We didn't just enroll them; they decided to. So I think that has a big impact if they're willingly signing up. The other part is for that other group of parents that we do enroll, the priming stage, making them aware of it before they start receiving emails. We educate them on the platform before they're in there. I think that helps a lot. So they're expecting this. And then my last thought um, was just before Campus ESP takes over this market, there, we don't have any other competitors really in Utah or our schools that are doing something like this. And so we're able to, I don't think, the student is getting 10 different schools reaching out through email to them, but the parent is only getting one or two maybe. And so I think that has a big impact. The students are heavily targeted and get a lot of communications, but parents don't as much right now, I don't think. And so that might change when you guys take over the world and everyone's using Campus CSP, but for now it's a good deal for us.
We'll stay out of Utah unless there's someone else from Utah on this
We can
call.
promise that. I'm glad you're seeing the lift from it though, Ryan, but I think it does make a good point that, not all schools are really focusing on family engagement, be it with Campus ESP or any other tool at their disposal. So when schools really do put a focus on this, it's a differentiator. And it really does help them stand out to a family perspectively. Leah, we didn't have a chance to look at your data double down because you were in the middle of a CRM migration and it was making some things a little bit difficult to pull quickly. But I know you had some thoughts about why this number probably is similar on your campus and why parents really are going to be more engaged.
Yeah, I think just to add, so often, parents are the one helping pay for college. So they want to have a say in kind of where their student is going and really making sure they understand that financial aid award package at each school. And then also, ultimately they want to make sure that their son or daughter will be getting that career after graduation and that it's the right fit for them. So it makes sense that, they want to be more involved throughout this process.
Definitely. I think that leads really nicely into this next part. We're taking a tiny pause from the data really just to look at some of the things that both Ryan and Leah's teams have been putting out there to parents and are getting really great engagement from. Leah just mentioned financial aid data. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that financial aid is often one of the most requested topics of information, the most clicked on. It's hard to avoid the fact that college is a large investment. Parents want to know what they're going to be getting for that investment, and they're really looking for information that is transparent and gives them all the information they need to make the decisions that right for their family. So Ryan, these are some things that Utah State has put out recently that we were able to pull from our portal. Can you talk a little bit about what you do see in terms of the topics, the timing, what really are you seeing the most parental engagement with?
Yeah, so that middle image is probably the biggest, and Campus ESP does a good job reminding its users to promote this in other ways as well as FAFSA, anything dealing with money. And so that's just about FAFSA and filling that out and when it's open and how to do it. But anything dealing with scholarships, tuition, I think it's all about the money for both parents and students. And so that stuff performs really well. And it makes sense in here because a lot of the parents are probably a part of that financial decision and helping with that. So they want to know even more about it. So that's a good indication of that. Anything dealing with money, scholarships, tuition. And then on the right, you'll see that parent session. A lot of our event stuff does really well, whether it's a post or we use the event tool in Campus ESP, but parents like to know what's going on and how they can engage by coming to campus or if we're coming to their area. And when it's very specific to the parent, just like this one you're seeing that it's a parent session, they respond really well to that. And that last image on the left, that's part of one of a campaign we're running. We signed on and did this little episode that's on a streaming series, and we're pushing that hard. But any of our campaigns really do well. We try and align our orientation campaigns, their next steps campaigns. When those are running, those perform really well for us because the student's getting the same message as the parent at those different times in the funnel. And I think it just reiterates the importance of that next step.
think that's really true. And then same thing here, we've got some of the things that Concordia has recently been putting out. So Leah, you want to walk us through some of these really good campaigns and what's been working for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would really echo what Ryan said. I think anything around financial aid, um, any of our value messages, important milestones throughout the funnel, and then visit events have all been really successful for us.
Great. All right, back into the data here. This is, we kind of been just talking about, open rates, parental engagement, actually taking in the content that you're sending out. And this is kind of the next step here as to what those actions are leading to when it comes to your enrollment funnel.
Yeah, so here's where things get really interesting, the correlation between parent engagement and student yield. What this chart is showing, we compared each school's overall yield rate for fall 2021 with the yield rate for students who have a parent using Campus CSP. So general yield to that group of students with an engaged parent. And across the board, the yield rate was higher for students with a parent using Campus CSP. In this case study, yield was about 5% higher for students with a parent using Campus CSP. And we'll turn it back over to Ryan and Leah, who I'm sure have lots of ideas on how this data can be leveraged.
You want me to go first, Leah? Okay. Yeah, when I saw this, it just reminded me of the previous year. We signed on with Camp CSP in early 2020, which was awesome for us. That helped us a ton. And that was the year we actually broke a record in enrolling the largest freshman class that our university's ever seen. And a lot of people were, I know, on the opposite end of that and struggling for fall 2020. But then I think we saw the results of the pandemic this fall, where we were recruiting during 2020 and our head count went down. But one of our pillars of enrollment that we don't actually advertise really is, we're always after head count, a class, like identity, high ability students, diversity, first gen. And then the third area we look at is net tuition revenue. And I really think by building the trust with the parents, and that was our first full cycle of parents through every funnel stage that we were communicating with them, helped us still meet one of those goals in those three areas I just mentioned. And that was net tuition revenue. We actually made a lot of money for the university, which sound like an awful businessman or something, but they were happy with us that even though headcount was down, we had more full pay students enroll that year. And so we still came out okay. And I think that this parent data showed that they played an influence in their students' decision as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just no surprise that, parents who are more engaged, the yield rate is going to be higher. I mean, we know just there's so many steps to complete throughout the enrollment stage, all of the higher ed jargon, it's hard to understand, all the pieces, and being able to have parents help their students throughout the process. And again, just really be our allies and help nudge them and throughout those important milestones is definitely important and makes sense here in the data shown.
So far, we've been talking about how if a parent simply has an account in Campus CSP, the student is more likely to enroll. But where we go next with the case study is looking at how level of engagement correlates with likelihood to enroll. And again, this is probably not very surprising, but we have results that show that the most engaged parents have students that are even more likely to enroll. Our metric with Campus CSP for measuring engagement is a tool that we call Parent Promoter Score. For those of you who are not current users of the platform, Parent Promoter Score is a score between 0 and 100 that summarizes every event a parent can take in the platform. So we're looking at email opens and email clicks and content clicks and visits to the portal. And what we find is that there's a strong correlation between a high parent promoter score and the student's likelihood to enroll. So Mel, if you jump to the next slide. Thank you. We had our data scientist run a report, and what we found is that, first of all, there is a statistically significant correlation between parent promoter score and likelihood to enroll, and the correlation gets stronger the more engaged a parent is. And what you're seeing with this chart is that when we look at parent users who have a parent promoter score in the very top quartile, we see that that top quartile of engagement is correlated with the student being between 2.5 and 3.5 times more likely to enroll. So that's huge. That's saying when the parent is most involved, the student is like up to 3.5 times more likely to enroll at the institution. Of course, again, many ways an institution can leverage this data to make enrollment decisions. And I believe Mel has some questions for Leah and Ryan to dig into this.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, I think the first question I have for Ryan, I'll say, were these numbers surprising to you? Were you seeing a correlation between really engaged parents and enrollment before, or is it something that kind of validates maybe all of the work that your team has been doing?
I'd say it definitely validates it. It's not a surprise, and we're glad to see that it's working. And so what it's turned into is, how do we leverage this even more?
Exactly. I know we talked before as a group about some schools taking the parent promoter score and using that information, because all these metrics that Brooke was just showing, these are all available in each person's administrator portal, and saying, okay, if these are my top quartile of parents that are engaged, how do I double down on these people who are probably very likely to be supporters of this institution and get their students to enroll? And I said, Ryan, you said you guys weren't pulling that data out quite yet, but you maybe have some plans to use that information strategically moving forward as you get more advanced in campus ESP.
Yeah, your team's been really good about, little quarterly meetings with us and new goals and making sure we're all on the same page every year, which is really helpful. And some of the new ideas we tossed around were awesome. Like, do we create a special community for parents that have a higher promoter score, so they receive a few extra communications from ESP or see different content relevant to them since they are engaging? Same thing with, maybe we come up with metrics for the middle area of parents that are kind of our fence sitters. Do we do something really special for them and have our recruiters reach out or call, or make it even more personal to see if we can tip that a little further? What it's come down to for our office, at least, is just the availability of staff. You can do so much with this, and I think we will automate as much as we can, but we want to do personalized things, and like I said, like a recruiter phone call or a special mailer to them even, but it just takes time and people, and so we're trying to figure out what we can pull off maybe this year.
We'll be excited to see what you do with the data. And then Lee, I know you guys are in the same boat. There's good plans coming together, but we haven't actually launched a project quite yet, right?
Correct. Yes, our new CRM transition is taking a good chunk of our time right now. But same, to what Ryan said, it's so nice to be able to have these scores so we can really know where to spend our time. We only have so many resources and time to make calls or do special events. So to be able to have that additional data will be nice. We're also starting to send more video messages too. So just, again, kind of what Ryan was saying, being able to target our audience a little bit more and do that personalized customization. Outreach will be so important.
Great.
All right. So this slide is taking the data from the previous slide one step further. Once we recognize that a parent's engagement level is linked to probability of enrollment, we wanted to look at all the different types of engagement and break down how different types of engagement are linked to enrollment. So of all different ways a parent can engage in campus ESP, which activities are the best predictors of student enrollment? So like I said earlier, the parent promoter score, it's made up of email opens and content clicks. there's also this concept of a campus ESP profile update, which is when a parent can log in and tell us more about themselves and their student and set their ideal newsletter preferences and schedule. And the results very, very clearly indicated that of all the different engagement activities a parent can take, the one with the strongest correlation to enrollment was a profile update. At CSP, a parent who updated their profile had a student that was 11 times more likely to enroll. And to give you all some context, we find that on average, 12% of prospective parents will actually go through the effort of updating their profile and their preferences and telling us more about themselves. So really what we see here is, it's like the takeaway is probably every institution who's on this call right now has some way to look at email opens and tie that back to which students enrolled. And there is real enrollment predictability there. But the level of effort that a parent goes through to update their profile does have the very strongest correlation. It's the best signal if the student's going to enroll.
All right, and this kind of takes us to the end of the data that we're going to be digging into today. So I think before we open it up for Q&A, I kind of just want to go back to Ryan and Leah about, their entire journey, not just with Campus ESP, but thinking about parent engagement from a more strategic standpoint, thinking about how they could scale their efforts. They both have mentioned small teams, lots of conflicting responsibilities. How do you do this thoughtfully and strategically and make sure you're putting out content that really is going to engage and push all these, these nudges down the line so that you're really, at the end of the day, delivering the end goal of increased enrollment and student yield. So Ryan, I'll start with you. If you had some advice from that whole thing that you've just gone through and how you're continually refining your efforts for someone who's just getting started with parent engagement, what would you advise them to do? What kind of steps do you really think they must do to really get themselves off on the right foot?
What's helped me the most is they're called drip posts, drip campaigns, anything that's automated, just getting that baseline in place, just so you have something going, something that you control and the parents are seeing when you want them to see it. And I would just start there. Like, you're in this webinar hearing all these new ideas and stuff, but that doesn't come, now we're in our second year, like we're still trying to do new things. But I think just getting a nice baseline in place, and it's very basic, then you can start tweaking and adding things and diving into the data like this to get even more out of it. But start simple is how I did it, and it's helped us a lot.
That's great. Leah, what about from where you sit? Any advice that you would share?
I would definitely say use Campus ESP. I think, again, that was our biggest barriers. We knew that this was an important area to invest more time in, but we just didn't have the resources to put tons of effort into building content to speak directly to our parents. So it's just been so nice to kind of, once we got this up and running, that Campus ESP really can kind of take the lead and help build that content, and then we can add to it as we need it. But it really kind of runs itself, which has been so helpful. And then, I know I've mentioned this before, but again, just really treating your parents like allies and speaking directly to them, I think is important to kind of meet them where they're at and really lean into how important they are for this college decision for their child.
Excellent. All right, at this point, we are going to open up the floor for some Q&A. So like I mentioned before, you have both the chat feature or the Q&A feature in the Zoom bar at the top of your screen. Either one of those, reach out. We will happily take any questions that you have. And actually, I do have a first one already. Brooke, I'm going to give this one to you. And someone is just looking for more information on Parent Recruiter. So can you walk through what that feature in Campus ESP really does again, and the benefit that it provides for early stage parent data?
Yep. Vilma, I'll give a high level right now, but if you want to share your email address, I could also follow up and send you like more detailed results and screen captures and all that kind of stuff. But Parent Recruiter was designed to help schools collect more parent contact information earlier in the process, because for everything you just heard in this webinar about how parents influence enrollment and they influence yield, they can only have that influence if a school is able to engage with parents. So some schools have access to a ton of parent contact information, most schools do not, and we want to find a way to help all schools build a bigger parent database, especially at the top of the funnel. So with Parent Recruiter, we import prospective students into Campus CSP. Leah, who's using Parent Recruiter, I believe you all imported about like 8,000 prospective students into Campus CSP. We send a series of drip campaigns, emails to those students saying, hey, you should invite a supporter, click here. We provide the student a really simple form to put in a parent name and email address. It also doesn't have to be a parent. It could be a counselor, a mentor, coach, any other supporter. And then that, when the student provides the contact information, we add that user to Campus CSP. So they automatically get looped into all the other communication that a school has set up that's designed for parents. But then what's even more important is that we generate a file back to the school, linking together the student information, the parent information, and tying those records to each other so that schools can absorb that data back into their CRM too. So it's brand new. We just had our first couple customers launch it a couple weeks ago. So results TBD. We will announce them when it's been live for more than a couple weeks, but we are seeing that students are inviting parents and students are inviting parents that schools did not already have contact information for. So we're not just generating parent names, we're generating new parent names too, which is useful. Hopefully that answered the question.
And at the end of the presentation, I will share everyone's email addresses. So if you want more details from Brooke, you can always just email her, and we know that she'll be super helpful and provide any information that you guys need. At this point, do we have any other questions from anybody on the call right now?
Don't be shy. Quiet group today.
It can be about Thanksgiving desserts, it can be about other meals. All topics welcome.
Yeah, Leah, can you share your grandmother's corn casserole recipe with us?
It's funny you say that because I've asked her for it and she just like tells it to me. She doesn't have anything written down. So I'm just trying to get it myself.
If you do the thing where there's like no actual measurement, it's like a handful of this,
Right.
eyeball of that. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions come in. I don't want to just waste time because we all know, oh, of course, as soon as I say that, something comes through here. All right, what is your best piece of advice for a new institution? I'm not sure if this means an institution that is new to parent engagement or a new institution that the institution itself is brand new. Whoever set this Q&A over, can you? Thank you. New to Campus ESP. So somebody who's new to Campus ESP, as you were getting onboarded, as you're implementing, I guess, Leah and Ryan, what is your best advice from your experience of being implemented on Campus ESP?
Mine's just to start simple, like a handful of messages that you want, and you want to go to those certain groups of parents once you're in there and you have your groups broken out or communities. And Campus ESP is really good to help you set everything up. They actually do a lot of the heavy lifting, which is nice, and make sure parents are being engaged. But I would just really start simple and then just take bite by bite. It's like eating an elephant. So you just got to start somewhere and pace yourself.
Yeah, and I think I would just add to just start collecting as much parent information as you can, at any time, whether, it's a virtual event or an in-person event. just asking for their information to start building out your database would be another piece of advice.
If I could piggyback off what Ryan said or reemphasize something Ryan said earlier, if you just do something, you're ahead of the curve. Ryan's in a fortunate position where Utah State is the only institution in Utah using Campus CSP. If they sent out 2 emails to parents a year, that is 2 more emails than parents are probably getting from any other institution. And most schools are really not doing a whole lot for parent engagement. So even if you do the bare minimum, you're probably still differentiating your institution. You're probably still reaching a captive audience, and just do something, and that's progress, and that's ahead of the curve.
Everyone has to start somewhere. And that's the good thing too, is that once you've got that first foundational campaign out, once you have your first, basic year of must share information, after that you're adding, it's like adding icing to the cake. It gets easier. You get more accustomed to working within the system. Your customer success manager at Campus ESP better. Everything just starts to move like clockwork, and you can just kind of see those numbers tick upwards. All right, anybody else? I don't want to cut anybody off. All right, I think those are the questions that we have for right now. Like I mentioned though, this is the email addresses for all of us here. Please, if you do have any questions that come to you afterwards, reach out to any of us. We'll be happy to share experiences, provide information, whatever you need. And then as a reminder, the recording of this, the deck that we just shared, and the actual case study itself will all be shared via email with you. So you have another time to take a look at it, absorb it, see how it might be able to impact what you're doing with parent engagement at your school. So I guess that's it. We're going to give everybody a couple of minutes back to their day. Thank you in advance to all of you for taking a look at the information when we send it out. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day today to join us. And very special thank you to Leah and Ryan for letting us look at your data, letting us talk to you and learn a little bit more about how you're using the platform, and for sharing all this information with us today. It was a pleasure having you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Right. Well, thank you all. And I'm going to end out the webinar. So thank you all and have a good rest of your day.